Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Pits of Motorcast. This is your host, Dave. I got a line special guest, front engine dragster driver, Bill Horvath. How you doing, Bill?
Good. How are you?
Not bad at all. It's been a kind of crazy year for drag racing, with COVID going on and all that. Have you been out racing at all?
I haven't. They actually closed my local track, Summit Motorsports Park. They made a call to shut down for the year. So that kind of hurt things around here. There is another local track that's not too far away that we are going to try to hit one race here in the fall.
So now, let me ask you, Bill, how did you get into drag racing?
Well, I've always been around cars. My dad was a car guy. I grew up around cars. The first car I ever drove was my dad's 67 GTO. And so I've always had a love and a passion for cars, especially fast cars. And just growing up around him, working on some of my dad's cars, helping my dad. My dad had a 76, well, he still has it. He's got a 76 Pinto drag car. And, you know, I was around that when I was a young one and up into my teenage years. So then I kind of got bit by the bug going out to the track with him. And so I decided I wanted to race. So when I was in my teens, I started doing some racing.
So what was your first car that you raced in?
Well, it was street cars. I would race in like stock class, and I had a Pontiac Sunfire. And then the first car actually, I guess built was an 86 Pontiac Sunfire turbo, 1.8 liter turbo. And it was well before they made any speed parts for any kind of a four-cylinder or anything like that. So everything had to be made. And we got that car into the high 13s, but it would huff a head gasket about every other pass. So I could change a head gasket in that car in about 30 minutes.
Now, did you have any success with that car?
You know, that car, no, not really. I got into, after that, I had a 79 Camaro, and I raced that just with a small block Chevy, and I raced that a lot in a super stock with the class, and we won some races in that. The track I race at, we call it Norwalk, but most people in the drag racing community know of it as Summit Motorsports Park. They have a big race every year called the Night Under Fire, and I won that a few times, runnered up that a few times, and we just mostly had fun in that car. It was just, you know, kind of laid back, having a good time, and, you know, relax kind of racing.
So how long did you race the Camaro for?
I raced the Camaro for, I think, 3 seasons. Towards the end of the life of the Camaro, it wasn't a very fast car. It wasn't much above stock. Me and my dad bought a Vega body, and we built that into a little bit of a bracket car. And, you know, we started out with just a little 355 in it, running 12s. And we built that into a car that would run 10s. And it was just not really, it was a good car. It just wasn't a full-out race car. So we decided that's when I started my mission to find another car or something different. And I've kind of always liked to be a little different. So I started looking for front-engine dragsters at that point and looking at chassis and things like that. I just thought they were cool-looking and different. So we searched quite a few places, and we finally found a chassis. I went to buy it. It had just been sold. So I was bummed. About 2 or 3 months goes by. The same chassis came back up for sale. Of course, it went from Fremont, Ohio, which is about an hour from me, to near Cincinnati, Ohio, which was about 3 hours away. So I contacted that person, and I actually bought the car from him, and we brought the chassis. It was really a bare chassis with a body. It was a 1969 chassis, so this is an old one. We brought that home, and then me and my dad just basically went to working on it and turned it into a race car.
So what year did you finally get it out there running?
I think it was 2011. We finally got it to the track. Little small block. It actually had a carburetor on it then. Small block 355. We run 9s with it. It wasn't super fast or anything like that. And we had a lot of fun with it. but, you have that need for speed, so you always want to go faster. And then it became a challenge because Summit's a big bracket racing track. They usually send guys to bracket world finals every year and things like that. So all my friends, you will never win in that car. You'll never make that car go straight. It became a real challenge to me because everybody said I couldn't do it. And, I set out to prove everybody wrong. I said, I'll make this car fast. I'll make it consistent. We'll go around. We'll have some fun. And we did that. Over the course of about 5 or 6 years, we went from high 9s to 8.0s, and the car really printed slips. The real problem with the car is if the track would start to go away in the evening, the track would become a handful because there's no suspension tuning, there's no magic recipe to make the front engine dragster go straight other than point, shoot, and hang on at some point.
So what kind of combination are you running the car on now?
Well, the car, the last combination on the car was a 452 cubic inch small block. It's a Dart small block, entirely injected. Actually blew it up. We run 40% nitro on it, and last time at the track it kicked 4 rods, and then I rebuilt it. The car it's a rough ride in the car. Actually encountered some back problems, so I had to have spinal fusion surgery. So when I blew the car up, we decided I would take some time off. I would have back surgery, and so that's where we're at now. I'm recovered from that. I've got a couple rods in my back and 28 screws, and we're ready to go back at it. I built another car, a rear engine car, to bracket race, and I'm a nostalgia race a front engine car, and hit the difference between bracket racing and nostalgia racing is index racing basically. So it's a different ballgame. You're on a 4/10 Pro tree. It's just a completely different ballgame than bracket racing. So the front engine car was very successful. Norwalk Summit has a huge race every year called the Blue Suede Cruise. And I made it down the semis or the quarterfinals every time the last 3 years I entered it. And one thing or another, I wasn't able to pull out the W. But the plan is that we're going to still nostalgia race that car and the bracket race the 240-inch 4-link car. It'll be easier on my back and a little smoother ride. The front engine car at the top end, if you've never been in one of those cars, when you let off the gas, the car wants to bounce and go left and right, and so they have a real mind of their own. And you're setting on the rear end. There's no suspension. There's no give. Your body absorbs it all, and it took its toll on me.
Wow. So when you run the front engine for nostalgia, are you still going to be putting nitro in it?
Yeah. I'll still run probably 40%, or I'll run VP MV5, which is similar. I think it's about 25%. But I like the flames, the pop, the sound, the feel of it. It does make more power too. It's good for a couple tenths easy with that. But it's a little harder on the engine, of course. So to be a little more cognizant of maintenance and things like that. But it's I'm only 47 years old, so I didn't live in the front engine dragster generation at all. But I really like it. I love watching them on TV, videos, and, as a whole, the car is a really attention grabber. It always has been. We unload it from the trailer, and it doesn't take long for people to come over and check it out. Norwalk will draw 400 cars on a weekend program, and I'll have the only front engine car out there, and it doesn't take long for, dads to bring their kids over, and, I always put them in the car, take their picture, anything to forward the sport. But I really enjoy the car and the look and the feel, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, the fans, they like to see the flames too and smell the nitro.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, the local track by me, which is like 30 minutes from me, is Great Lakes Dragway in Union Grove, Wisconsin. That's like
familiar. I know it.
Yeah, 1955 they opened. There's an old track. Yeah, they got their big Labor Day weekend thing this weekend, Time Machine National. Unfortunately, I won't be there, but Saturday's show, they got like 8 to 10 front engine dragsters there, nitro. Yeah.
It's cool that the sport has embraced nostalgia cars, the gassers, the front engine cars, the nostalgia fronting cars. They're really a lot of fun to watch. And it's just it's a neat part of the sport that's still there. It hasn't got lost. And in most motorsports, the history gets lost, the circle track racing and things like that. In drag racing, it definitely has not gotten lost. It's still there. You go to the U.S. Nationals, and we have a lot of show cars there. We've been invited to take our car to several different tracks and parades and things like that, just because of what it is. And that's the nice thing about drag racing is the sport hasn't totally lost the history of the sport. It's changed a lot, but it's still there. There's still following for the Heritage Series and things like that.
Yeah, they got a real good nostalgia program. They started 2 years ago. This year they had a second one. Have not been to any of their events yet, but it's called Out of Sight Drags, and it's like cars from like 19. I'll probably get this wrong, like 1967 and earlier. Run for that weekend.
Mm-hmm. I'm part of a group called the Nostalgia Drag Racing League, the NDRL. They're Midwest. They travel. They go to Bowling Green, Kentucky. They go to the Gateway, couple tracks in Michigan and Norwalk. So it's a traveling series, and it's all nostalgia. I think they're 74 and earlier. They have gasser classes. They have our class is called Pro Comp, and they actually have some full-on nitro front engine cars in that class. And they put a really good show on. It's a great group of people. There's a lot of camaraderie. A couple of years ago, I had some problems with the car, and I had guys I didn't even know coming over. And, what do you need? I actually had a distributor. I still run a distributor, and I don't run a magneto. And something happened with the rotor. It actually blew the cap right off the car. And some guy I never met before brings me a cap and a rotor so I could make the next round. And it's just a great group of people, and a lot of fun, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of good times.
Oh yeah, so drag racing is a lot of camaraderie and one big family.
That's one of the draws to it, because you go out to the track, you get there on Friday, and you're there till Sunday, and you get to see people of all walks of life and everybody helping everybody. I've had the type of car I run, of course, it doesn't always end up from A to B. We've had some issues in one race. I twisted an axle in half when I launched the car, and we kept it on the wall, but a group of people were right there to help, and anything I needed, we didn't fix it for the race. But one of the probably the worst incidents I had in the car was I broke a pinion going through the stripes. So we're doing a 185, break the pinion gear, the rim locks up. It was just a handful, which I honestly don't remember most of it because I was knocked unconscious. Cracked my helmet. I remember the car bicycling on two wheels one way. I turned the wheel, bicycled on another way. I grabbed, even if the car's only got a handbrake, no foot brake, I grabbed the handful of brake and just held on, and I don't remember anything after that. And, I ended up in an ambulance. I lost a feeling in my legs. When they pulled me out of the car, I couldn't stand up. And, that was the beginning of my back. But it was that ride that really finished my back off and put a kind of a big stop in my front engine career for a little while, because it was a long recovery. But, the people got that the car was loaded. People I don't even know loaded the car in the trailer and did everything to get my rig ready to go home.
Wow. That's a beautiful thing.
It is. It's definitely one of the best parts of the sport, in my opinion.
Now, how did you overcome your injuries?
Well, I dealt with them for a while, and I tried to race, and it got to the point where it's really difficult to get in and out of the car. And so I decided, I consulted with a couple different surgeons, and finally met a surgeon I really liked. And so I had spinal fusion surgery. They fused 3 vertebrae together with 2 rods and 28 screws. And that's about a 2-year recovery after that. I'm good to go now. I feel good. I actually feel better than I've felt in a long time. And it's good, successful surgery. Good surgeon doing a good job putting me back together again.
Wow, you were blessed.
Some people don't get lucky. It's just like the accident I had. I very easily could have ended up in, wadded into the wall and in much worse shape. So, do you thank the Lord above for looking out? We've had a couple incidents through the car where I really had no control of it. We had another incident where blew an oil breather near the finish line, and I got a bath of oil and put the motor right in front of you. There's actually a video of it on my YouTube channel. I had the GoPro right next to the roll cage, and when that breather blew, it blew oil all over. I could see nothing. All I did was grab the brake, hold the wheel as straight as I could, and wait to hit something. And finally the car stopped, and there it was in the center of my lane. And it was a wonderful thing because when that oil hit my face shield, it just smears. You can't see anything.
Right.
And at that point, you're just in for the ride. You're just trying to slow it down as best you can and keep it in your lane, because the last thing you want to do is possibly get in somebody else's lane. And we did. We got the car stopped, and actually we made the next round call after about 4 cans of brake cleaner and a lot of cleanup.
Wow. Amazing.
That's an interesting video. I'll have to send you that so you can check it out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, do that. Send it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So now, what do you enjoy most about, being a drag racer?
Well, there's a lot of things. Like I said, the camaraderie is cool. The thrill and exhilaration. When you get in the car and the motor's right there in front of you and it's running and you're getting the fumes. I mean, I run an impact helmet with a respirator in it, but you smell the nitro. You feel the heat from the headers. It's sitting in front of you. You're looking at the back of a bird catcher, and you see the tires is basically all you see in front of you. Tires and motor. It's a pretty unbelievable feeling. And you drop the hammer and you do the burnout, and the tires suck up tight, and the car lifts up, and it's a pretty good feeling. I can't really compare it to anything. I've been in some other cars. I've been in faster cars. There's no comparison. There's no comparison to be sitting between the tires and just feeling. You look to the side and see the tire there smoking away, and it's a pretty unique feeling. And same with the launch. The car, I went through some wheelie bars on it because it launches pretty violent, and it'll bend them up. And, the wheels are off the ground, the front end's bouncing like a basketball. You're doing your best to go straight and go A to B with a whole alphabet in between. But it's a thrill that, to me, it's unmatched in any car I've been in. The exhilaration and the feeling of the car, like I said, everything right in front of you. It's just a lot of fun.
Now, Bill, is there anything that you hate about drag racing?
Really, no, because even when you get beat, 9 out of 10 times your competitor is right there to shake your hand or to come talk about what happened. My dad has raced with me my whole life, so he's a big part of it. And through good and through bad, no matter what, somebody's always there. And, like I said, the last time my front engine dragster was at the track, I kicked 4 rods out of it. And, people coming over and wanting to help. We're dropping the pan and we're seeing, we're beating that pan off with a hammer, I should say. But we're taking it apart and trying to look at what's going on. And you got guys trying to help you out and, doing everything they can. And that, to me, is part of the sport that is just, I don't know how to explain it. It's just such a good feeling. It's, the brotherhood of drag racers. And so there's not one thing I could say about the sport. You go out there and work your tail off and lose in the first round. It happens to everybody. It's still a lot of fun. And like I said, the camaraderie and the brotherhood it's pretty awesome.
And that's what keeps you passionate about drag racing throughout the years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You always want to go faster. I've had some pretty neat cars that a lot of people have Vegas and whatnot, but it's there's always a draw, and it's always fun. I never had a bad time at the Dragster. Never. Blowing cars up and got a couple rides to the hospital and never had a bad time at the drag strip. And I guess that's part of the draw. That's part of what I missed through the whole COVID deal is that we're not out there every weekend racing, and we're not seeing our friends and family that are at the track.
So now, Bill, if you could have the fans remember one thing about you, what would you want that one thing to be that to remember about you?
Well, I guess it would be that I never give up. I never gave up when I built this car. I never gave up when we had struggles with the car. Never gave up. And if it wasn't for my back, I would have continued to race up until this year in that car. Now that the back is good, we'll be back. We'll be back in that car someday. It's not done. It's not retired. It's 50 years old, but it's still a good car.
Now, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. I was going to say, now, what drag racers do you look up to, if any?
Well, many years ago, I met Big Daddy Don Garlitz, which is ironic because the chassis I have actually was one that was destined for him in 1969. But I met him at a nostalgia race, and he was super nice. I had a bunch of questions. He answered them. He was just a super nice guy. Daryl Gwynn come to our track a lot of different times, and he was always a super nice guy, talkative. I guess probably one of the biggest would be Del Worsham. When I was a teen, Del Worsham had a funny car. It was just a plain white Oldsmobile. It was before he made it. He was a kid himself, and they came to our track to test on a Wednesday night. We had a Wednesday night program that I used to always go to, and they just brought their funny car out to test, and he parked his rig next to where we were parked. And of course, here I am, just a young teenager, and there's a funny car sitting there, a nitro car. And so I started talking to him, and he took me in the trailer, and he spent time talking to me, and just we had a really good time. And he was driving the car then, but he was I guess no one at that point, no one knew who Del Worsham was back then. Texas Stagecoach was a sponsor. Nobody really heard of him. And he really spent a lot of time with me, while they were there. And it was really cool to go into the trailer and see everything they were doing. And, hey, can you help me do this? And can you, that was, it's a moment I'll never forget. Actually, my dad took a picture of me and him together. And 2 years ago, out at the Summit, I had him autograph it. And, here I am, 17-year-old kid, and he's about the same age. And he was like, wow, that's really cool. But that just the way he was at that event, being around an athlete, and Del Worsham made it. He's one of the good guys in the sport, and to see how he was and friendly and personable and down to earth, and that's something I'll never forget. I'll never forget that at all.
Yeah. Some people get scared to talk to these guys. They're just regular people, just like you and me are.
They really are. Ron Capps is another guy. I was working at the national event at Summit a couple years ago, and I was working professional staging lanes. I know the owners of the track really well, and so I helped at that race. And it was a blistering hot day. I didn't have a hat on. Ron Capps' car's right there, and he's there. And he's like, brother, you need a hat. My head is beat red. Next time they come up, he's got an Napa hat. He's like, here. And just things like that in our sport that, just Ron Capps, this guy's like one of the best out there, I'm just some guy standing there in a Summit Motorsports Park jersey, and, he gives me a hat, and, get your head out of the sun, that, you just don't see that in other sports, and it's something about drag racing that I think it continues to aid the sport. If you go to a nitro race and you spend some time in the pro pits during the event, and you see the majority of the drivers, how accessible they make themselves, and how fan friendly they are. You don't get that. You don't get that at a football game. You don't get that at a basketball game or a NASCAR race even, the drivers, they disappear. They sign 3 autographs and walk away. It's not like that in drag racing.
Yep, exactly. So now, Bill, how was your first time experience going down the track in that front engine dragster?
Well, I will admit that it was, I went into it and I said I'm gonna do a burnout and I'm gonna do a launch, probably gonna go to 330, and I did. And I rode it out to about 700 foot or so before I let out of it. But nervous, definitely. Scared, a little bit, because never being in a car like that, and then everybody and their brother told me how crazy these cars were to drive, how dangerous they were, how they didn't go straight, so my mind was going a mile a minute. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just gonna crash in the first race, Well, I launched a car, it felt right, and I kept in it, and I stayed in it, and then I got out of it, because, you have to do all your licenses and stuff, and I didn't want to put the track in any danger and make a full pass without a competition license at that point, but, it was, you get to the end of the track, and you pull off, and you get out of the car, and you kind of think about it like, wow, it's an unmatched adrenaline rush. Even though the car wasn't really all that fast then, it was pretty, a very unique experience. I can say, I don't know that I could put a feeling on it other than, it was kind of euphoric, just, whapping the hammer and going. And, the car throws you back in the seat, and you're in the back. I mean, you can't get much farther back in a front engine dragster. And it's a pretty neat feeling. And as we made the car faster and faster, every season, the first race of the year was almost the same feeling, out of the trailer. That first launch, the first burnout, and then the first launch and first pass almost feels that way every single season, And it's... I will say it's not a thrill you get used to, because every pass in a front engine dragster is a little different. It's really not an A to B car. You have to be ready to feed it steering as soon as you hit the go pedal, and you have to kind of have a plan of attack in your head of what you're going to do. I've had the car launch and end up in the paint by the Christmas tree, and I guess experience of driving the car and making hundreds and hundreds of passes in it, you know what the capabilities are, and you know how much you can correct, because there's definitely a point of no return. I've drove the car through some pretty bad tire shake and things like that, where I was getting pretty close to the wall or the center line, and in a car like that, it's just not forgiving. It doesn't steer easy. If you've been in a new dragster, they've got rack and pinion steering, they steer like a piece of cake. This car's got a bell crank and 20 foot of long rod going to a steering box, from the 60s, and it doesn't steer very well. And when you're going down the track at speed, the front end's not on the ground a lot. I've got a couple of pictures that people have taken at half track and 330, and you can see the front end's off the ground. It literally just hovers right above the ground the whole way down the track. I stuck a GoPro. My batteries are forward. I put them in the front of the car for ballast, and I put a GoPro on it, and you can see the whole way down the track. The front is just basically skimming the track. So the steering input is minimal. It's just it's a unique thing. It's hard to describe. I likened it to one guy brought his kid over in a junior dragster, and he's like, "Oh my son wants to drive one. He's so bad." I said, "Well, that's like going from the horse in front of the department store that you feed a quarter into a bull. It's definitely different to drive, and I wouldn't put somebody in one of those cars that hadn't been driving for a few years, just because of how they handle. It's a lot different. There's no foot brake. It's all, my car just has a handbrake. Your left hand is the brake, your right hand's the steering wheel, and the whole way down the track, you got one hand on the steering wheel and the other hand waiting to grab the brake. Yeah. And then the parachute release is right next to the brake handle, so if you get in trouble, you can hit that and keep the brakes pretty much applied.
Yeah, they call them slingshots.
Yeah, they're in the way they launch too is different. When you're in a suspended car, the car squats and all the everything works. The four-link works. The pinion changes. In a front-engine car, the pinion angle don't change. The rear end doesn't squat. So your suspension is your tires. So you basically use your tire pressure to allow the car to squat a little bit when you take off. But the pinion angle can't change to gain traction or anything like that. So I'm blessed because Summit Motorsports Park is one of the better tracks around. Traction is really never an issue there. But I've been to other tracks where, you blow the tires off of it. The track looks sticky and feels sticky, but it'll be sticky to a radial car, it'll be sticky to a four-link car, but it won't be sticky to my car. Just because there's no enhancement there. You can't change your pinion angle or adjust anything. Let's just go.
Now, who are the other crew members that keep this car purring?
Well, mostly my dad. My dad is probably 75% of my crew. I have a good friend named Tim Walker. He drives a motorcycle, pro mod bike, and we always put together, and he helps me a lot. My father-in-law races too. His name's Alan. He helps a little bit here and there where he can, but I'd say my dad is probably a good 75%, him and me. I do all the tuning, all the injection stuff, everything to do with the tune-up on the car I do. My dad basically does tires, makes sure the levels, the fluid's good, fuel's good. He makes sure everything's ready to go. But I do all the tune-up. That way, if I blow it up, I can't blame anybody else.
Yep.
And we've done that a few times.
Now, when you get out there on the starting line, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions at all?
I like a little bit of quiet time in the staging lanes, and so Tim and my dad, they know that, so they'll go, when there's a couple cars in front of me, they'll go up to the water box and spend just a few minutes gathering my thoughts and thinking about what's going to happen, and saying a quick little prayer, make sure you're safe, and then, we roll in the water box. My dad will line me up at the edge of the water, and then, which is nice, once you're there, you're set. And you hammer the burnout, and the nice part about having the motor right in front of you, you can really line up down the track pretty good when you're backing up. So I'll back the car up and clear the injector a few times. Kick it in neutral, clear the injector a few times, tighten up the gloves, tighten up the belts, and then I bump in. I like to light the top bulb first, and let my competitor at that point bump the next two in. Doesn't always work that way, as you know, but I try to do that. It just so I can sit there and be ready to go. And then of course I'm staging with a handbrake, so it's a different deal. There's a 2-foot throw versus a 2-inch throw on a gas pedal. So try to bump in, stay nice and shallow, and just let her rip.
Now, do you do quarter-mile racing only?
Well, our track recently went to 8th mile on their points races. The nostalgia races are quarter mile. I hear that they may go back to quarter mile racing, which I hope. I love quarter mile racing. But nostalgia races are always quarter mile, and bracket races are 8th mile. So you have to be prepared for both. But pretty simple in my car because it does the 1-2 shift pretty quick. So I don't have to worry about, some people, their car will shift right around the 8th. I don't have that problem. I'm usually shifted by 100 feet. We run a lot of RPMs through the motor.
So now, would you consider Norwalk your favorite track?
Yeah, absolutely. Norwalk, Summit Motorsports Park, it's a wonderful facility. If you've never been there and you have a chance to come down to Norwalk, Ohio, and check it out, it's one of the nicest tracks. You talk to the pro racers, they'll tell you it's one of the nicest tracks on the surface. Super smooth. They have a new surface they put in just a couple years ago. Paved pits, electricity. It's an awesome facility. The Bader family, they've owned the track for many, many years, and they have improved that track year after year after year. It is a phenomenal facility. I definitely say that's my home track, and that's my favorite track.
Now, do you have any sponsorship at all?
Through the years, I've had sponsors. Of course, with the back injury, I did not go search out any sponsors currently. So right now, zero. But hopefully, once we're back at it and we can put a full schedule back together, we'll hunt some sponsors down. But we have in the past, but unfortunately right now I don't have any.
Now, where do you get your fire safety equipment from, Bill?
My helmet's Impact. My belts are RCI. I love the platinum belts with the cam lock. They're easy in, easy out. I love Impact helmets. I always buy respirator style, nitro style helmets, just like the nitro guys wear. With the motor in front of you, you get a lot of fumes, a lot of fumes. And so the respirator helps me breathe easy. It's got a helmet vent at the top, so you can get some fresh air. So I love that. Those two things. My gloves are RCI, my shoes are RCI. I've always been real happy with their equipment. As far as like the fire jacket and all that stuff, that is also Impact.
All right, now what was your fastest pass you've made in the front engine dragster?
We went 8:02. I detuned the car to launch the car because we had so many problems with it getting out of hole. I actually pulled 20 degrees of timing out of the launch to get the car down the track, and at that point we run 8:02. There's more in it. We could probably dial it up more, but because I bracket race the car so much, we've chosen for consistency over ET. I can run on a given weekend, depending on the weather. We could run 8.0s pass after pass after pass. The real problem is, when the dew comes in at night and the track will start to go away a little bit, and you just can't help that. Car will sometimes get a little swirly. One of the last races I was in, I think I was in the 5th or 6th round, and I launched a car. I was like 006 or 5 or 8, something like that, 00 something, and the guy was 71, and I had him, and I got about 330 out in the car, just decided I didn't want it to turn. And you pedal it a little bit, but in bracket racing, you're done at that point, and I ended up losing. But I had him covered, and we were printing tickets all night. The car was spot on. I hardly changed the dial all night. It just, sometimes that happens, and that's the nature of the beast for the type of car I run. The track conditions change, and the car cannot adapt to them like most people can adapt their other type style cars to.
Now, Bill, have you reached any milestones in your drag racing career so far?
Yeah. We've won some events, like I say, in other cars. The big one was when we built this car. It was a challenge that everybody laid upon me that, we couldn't win bracket races with it, and we couldn't go straight, and we couldn't make it consistent. So I did all of those, and I checked all those boxes. And I had one more goal on a very good close friend of mine, Dave Parati, who's a drag racer for many, many years. He raced some funny cars and things back in the 60s and 70s. He passed away, but he was a mentor to me, and I promised him I would get the car in the 7s, and that's the only thing that I haven't done in the car to date. I think we're there. On a good weather night, we'll do it. But I would say that is one more milestone I would like to hit in that particular car before I strap it up to the ceiling in my barn and call it retired.
All right. Now, do you have any hobbies outside of drag racing?
I have a sports memorabilia business. I do a lot of autographed sports memorabilia on YouTube and the internet. I love sports. I'm a big, huge football fan. I'm not too far from Cleveland, Ohio, so the heartache of cheering for the Browns year in and year out, which is very tough. Ohio State, of course, that kind of makes it easier. I love Ohio State football. I like being outside. I like cars in general. I've got some RC cars that me and my brother have that we mess around with. Sports is a definite passion in cars. My wife says I have too many cars. I don't think you never have too many cars.
Well, of course, a lot of people are mad at sports right now because they don't stand for the flag, national anthem, all that,
Yeah, I understand it. I believe in the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance and respecting the flag of the United States of America. And don't like a lot of things that are going on right now. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of things that are out of our control, and you do your best to try to steer clear, and it's hard. I'm passionate about certain things, and sometimes it causes a little bit of heartache, but I like to see our country get back on its feet and get rolling again.
Yep. All right, most embarrassing moment you've had on the track.
Well, it I don't know if it was on the track. Maybe when I broke the axle, that was kind of embarrassing because it was right at the launch, and there's a bunch of people in the stands, and car heads for the wall, and the tire goes another direction. That's kind of embarrassing. But probably the most, I guess, looking back, when I got knocked unconscious, when I went to the hospital, my dad didn't think they were going to let me go, so he took my clothes and left to go back to the track. And my wife and my mother-in-law were at the hospital with me. Well, I insisted that I wasn't staying at the hospital, and I wanted to go back to the racetrack. And I don't really remember most of this. I had no pants. So the hospital gave me these blue paper pants. That's what I wore. Made my wife take me back to the racetrack. I went around, visited all my friends, told them I was fine, don't remember any of it, in those blue paper pants. They all told me about it afterwards, and I'm like, geez, you guys could have stopped me. Nobody was stopping me. So I spent a couple hours at the racetrack that I really don't recall in blue paper pants in a hospital. So that's probably the most embarrassing moment at the track that I really don't remember it, but my friends, they remember it.
They didn't get no pictures of you, huh?
None that I've ever seen, and that's probably a good thing.
Or video footage.
Yeah, that's. And I'm surprised my wife didn't take any pictures because she could have held it against me forever.
Yeah.
I was bound and determined to go back to the track, and like I said, I don't really remember any of it. And the hospital, they can't really hold you if you want to go, and so I made my mother-in-law and my wife take me back to the track. And it's funny, the next day, I pulled the pig out of the car and started ripping the rear end apart to fix it. I have no recollection of it. There are pictures. My dad took pictures of the rear end, the gears and all that stuff. I don't remember taking it apart. I was concussed and all that. But, the next day I was, hey, we're going to fix it and go racing next weekend. And we did. We did. We got a new rear end in it, and we were back at the track the very next weekend.
Now, what would you consider to be the fondest memory of your drag racing career?
Probably quality time with my dad. It's, you don't always get along in life. You don't always have common things, but at the track, we have a good time. Even when there's tension, trying to get something fixed or make something work. But I would probably say that's probably one of the big ones. Just the memories in general that you build through racing. I look back the last 20 years of my life, and the happiest times, outside of marriage, it's probably something related to racing. There's so many fond memories and friends that you build over the years and people that you meet, and that's probably one of the biggest.
All right, now what's the best way for people to, find where you're going to be racing at?
Well, I used to have a website. It is down. I took everything down when I went off for back surgery. But I will go back onto Facebook and have Horvath Racing. We'll put that page back up. And I have videos, and I've got a ton of YouTube videos right now that are on YouTube under my name, William Horvath. But we'll go back and resurrect that once we're racing full time again, and kind of categorize what we're doing and where we're going to be. My plans next year to run the full season at Norwalk and points with the rear engine car. We're going to get the front engine car back ready to go for the nostalgia race, which is middle of summer. So, we hope to nostalgia race next year in that race and run the rear engine car through the point series at Summit Motorsports Park next year. And then we might hit a couple. We have another track. We're blessed here in Ohio. There's a lot of drag strips. Dragway 42 is probably less than an hour from me. It's a newer facility. I think it's like 3 or 4 years old. Facility that was real big in the 60s. It was the first 4-lane drag strip. But they resurrected it. The new owners, the Matchins, have basically knocked it down and built a new track there. And they have a nostalgia race called Rockin' Race. And it is basically a long weekend nostalgia party. They have bands and tons of fun.